The room burst into awkward laughter. No one thought he'd respond. No one thought he'd even look up. But he did. And what followed silenced them all. Olivia Hart was not just the CEO of one of New York's most successful luxury real estate companies. She was the poster child for ambition, polished, poised, and perpetually untouchable. Raised in wealth, educated at Ivy League schools, she moved through life like a woman who had never been told no. Her boardroom was her battlefield, and her confidence was her armor. But what Olivia didn't know was that someone in her building had lived a very different life, and carried a story she'd never expect. His name was Elias Reyes. Mid-40s. Always in the background. Always quiet. The janitor with the worn-out shoes, calloused hands, and a gaze that held more wisdom than words. He swept the marble floors of the lobby each night long after the last executive had gone home. To most, he was invisible. But to a select few. The night security guard, the front desk receptionist, and the old mailman, Elias was someone different. Mysterious. Gentle. Thoughtful. And very, very private. It all began on a Thursday evening, during a corporate gala held in the main conference hall. The event was to celebrate the company's record-breaking year. Champagne flowed. Classical music played softly from speakers in the corners. Olivia, dazzling in a navy silk dress, stood among her staff like a queen among knights. And then, in a moment of jest and arrogance, she noticed Elias entering to clean up in the back. "Mr. Reyes," she called, half teasing, half patronizing. "Ever play the piano?" He didn't answer immediately. He just looked at her, eyes still and quiet. "Because if you can play Chopin, I'll marry you," she added with a smirk, tapping her glass with a nail. The room laughed, not because it was funny, but because Olivia laughed first. Elias simply nodded. "Okay," he said softly. People turned toward him, waiting for a punchline. None came. "I'm serious," Olivia said, raising an eyebrow. "Chopin. No mistakes. Let's see what you've got." He didn't reply. He just walked, slowly, purposefully, to the grand piano placed at the corner of the room, originally meant as a prop more than an instrument. And then, his fingers touched the keys. The room fell into a stunned silence as the first notes of Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major filled the hall. Not just played, but sung, through the worn fingers of a man who, until this moment, no one had noticed. Each note dripped with emotion. Pain. Beauty. Memory. The kind of performance that doesn't come from practice, but from living. The kind that doesn't impress the ears, but breaks the heart open. Olivia stood frozen, her wine glass slowly lowering. Around her, executives blinked in disbelief. Some whispered. Some recorded. And others, just listened, mesmerized. When the last note lingered in the air and finally disappeared, no one clapped. No one clapped. No one dared. The silence was too sacred to break. Elias stood up, gently closed the piano lid, and nodded once more at Olivia before walking away without another word. The next morning, gossip spread like wildfire. "Did you see the janitor play Chopin? Where did he learn that? Why is someone like him doing this job?" But Olivia was silent. For the first time in years, she was humbled. Not because her challenge had been met, but because it had been answered with grace instead of pride. Later that week, she called Elias into her office. She expected a conversation. She expected to ask him questions, about his past, his skill, why he chose this life. But when he arrived, he simply stood quietly, not offering anything more than his presence. "I didn't mean to offend you," she began. "You didn't," he said. "You just didn't see me." That sentence hit her like a train. He told her, piece by piece, the story no one knew. That he had once been a concert pianist. That he toured Europe in his 20s, performed at Carnegie Hall. That he had a wife and daughter who loved music as much as he did. That one rainy night, coming home from a performance, a drunk driver took them both from him. He never played again. Couldn't. Until that night. And even then, it wasn't her challenge that moved him. It was the memory of his daughter. Her favorite piece was Chopin's Nocturne. When Olivia mentioned it, something inside him cracked open. That music, which had once been unbearable, had finally become bearable again. Because it wasn't about showing off. It was about letting go. In the weeks that followed, Elias continued to clean the floors. But something shifted. People saw him now. Respected him. Not because of what he did, but because of who he was. And Olivia? She didn't marry him. Of course not. But she did offer him something else. She partnered with a local music foundation and asked Elias to lead a music outreach program for underserved youth. Using her company's funding, his talent, and both of their reputations. At first, he hesitated. But then he saw a young boy, shy, quiet, unsure, sit at the piano during their first community event, and Elias knew it was time to share his gift again. The janitor became a teacher. And Olivia, for the first time in her life, learned what it meant to listen. Final message. Never assume someone's worth by their job title or silence. Some of the most extraordinary souls walk among us quietly, carrying stories too deep to imagine. True greatness doesn't need to shout. Sometimes, it just plays a single note, and changes everything. Because real power is not in success, it's in humility, healing, and hearing the music in others.